This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Hey, thanks a lot, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast and, of course, the Montana Outdoor Radio Show that a lot of you tune in every Saturday morning from 6 to 8 Mountain Time. And those of you that haven't checked that out, do so. Especially those of you that are outside the state of Montana and can't listen to it on any of our 30 great radio stations that carry it, you can go to montanooutdoor.com and listen to it there either live from 6 to 8 in the morning Mountain Time, or you can catch the replay of it. You can just listen to it at your leisure there. And also on Facebook Live, too, so you can watch the radio show if you'd like to. And, of course, that's live from 6 to 8 Mountain Time, as I said. Another quick shout-out I'd like to give is to our active military all around the world. It just humbles all of us, the whole staff here that helped put on this podcast, that so many of you listen to this podcast while you're serving our great country, and we really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules, protecting the world and the nation to listen, and I hope we bring a little bit of home back to you. So thank you so much for your service out there. Now, I want to talk a bit about one of my favorite fishing tournaments of all. You've heard me talk about Mack Days before, and I just really believe these are probably the most unique fishing tournaments you're ever going to get to take part in. They are so fun. They are probably the longest lasting tournaments that you can get involved in, and they're just so unique in so many different ways. So we've got Fall Mack Days coming up quick. In fact, it's even earlier than usual, and so I asked Cindy Benson to get on board here with me, and she's going to talk a bit about Fall Mack Days, how you can get involved in that, and then after I'm done talking to Cindy, we're going to talk with some of the anglers that will be competing this year and get their stories and why they like to fish in the tournament and learn some interesting things from them. But first, let's talk to Cindy. Cindy, how you doing? I bet you've been busy getting everything planned and ready to roll for Fall Mack Days, huh?
Yes, we are. It's going to be here pretty quickly, and it crept up on us this year. So,
yeah. So I guess let's start there. What are the dates for this year's Fall Mack Days?
Okay, our 2024 Fall Mack Days will begin September 5th. It is earlier this year, like you said. It's 2 weeks earlier. We're hoping that we can help these anglers out by, eliminating some of that colder weather at the end.
Uh-huh.
So we begin September 5th and we'll end on Sunday, November 30th. And it is a long event. It's 60 total days. So you can choose to fish every day. We have had an angler do that before, or a few anglers do that before. They'll fish every single day. Or you can choose the days you want to fish. We accept fish from Monday through Sunday for those 9 weeks. So it's your choice. Whenever you want to go out there and fish, you can go out, bring your fish in. You can enter your fish or you can keep your fish. The Friday, Saturday, and Sunday fishing are what I call our high dollar days, where you qualify for the larger lottery prizes that begin at $2,000 and go down.
Wow.
Or Monday through Thursday fishing. We don't get a lot of people out, but we're happy with every fish that we get entered during those days. And those lottery prizes start at $250 and go down. We also have other prizes that we put out for that. We have Siberian coolers that we give away. We have prizes Friday through Sunday. They're called weekend prizes. We choose 5 of those every weekend. There's $200 to $100. On the weekends, we also have the large fish contest, smallest fish, top angler prizes, ladies prizes, youth prizes. There's just so many categories. We've tried to do that to accommodate everybody, to try to get everyone interested in Mack Days so that they'll come out and help us in this fish conservation effort on Flathead Lake to reduce the non-native lake trout and increase the native bull trout and West Slope cutthroat trout.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've just named off so many great things that fishermen can take part in, and that's what makes this so unique, Cindy, is that, you know, there's so many different ways to win. If you just want to get out and go fishing and have some fun and, you know, maybe win a prize or two, make a few bucks, that's fine. You want to get serious, like some of the anglers we'll be talking to that really get into it and fish a lot of days during it and can make unbelievable amounts of money.
That's right. Yeah, you know, it's there's bonus dollars that they earn once they get 11 fish. They start earning bonus dollars, we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so those go up as their total goes up. We also have tag fish out there that start at $10,000 and go down to $100. The Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes sponsor the event, and this fall event has up to $200,000 in cash and prizes available.
Wow. So definitely one of the richest fishing tournaments that you can ever take part in. The other thing I like about it, Cindy, is you don't have to be some, you know, professional fisherman that, you know, is out on the circuit and all that to compete in this. Anyone, whether you've just started fishing or even never fished before, can take part in this, right?
That's right. Yeah. We love it when people come out and they say, oh, we've never fished out here before, but we want to get involved. It does take, you know, I think it takes a few days to figure it out. But once you get it figured out, you can go out there and catch fish, you know, practically every single place you go and every single day. You have to put the time and the effort into it. I always tell people you have to write your own story. You have to learn things that are going to work for you out there. But people are also willing to give them, you know, tips and help out. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the other thing that I love about it. You know, you get into some of these fishing tournaments and everybody's so serious. They play it real close to the vest. You know, it's funny. I'll walk around some of these tournaments that I cover and talk to people, and I'll say, okay, so you were out pre-fishing, checking things out. Where were you at? And they'll say, we were on the lake. You know. But this tournament is really different in that there's just this great camaraderie where if you've never fished the tournament before, in the evenings or early morning before people get going, but a lot of times in the evenings at the campgrounds, you can gather around the campfire and ask questions. And these fishermen are very open about saying, here's what you ought to do. Here's the kind of things I use. It's pretty unique, isn't it?
It is. I love it. Each and every one of them is pretty special people, and they do in the evenings. They like to relax, and they get around a campfire and start talking, and that's a good time to visit with them. You could also go up to the boats out there on the water and say, hey, can I come and talk to you, or do you mind if I watch you, or can you show me what you're doing? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. Once you ask their permission, I think they're pretty good about it. But, you know, people just rolling up on them and getting right next to them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that can be a little, you know, annoying. But most of them are pretty good about helping out others.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to talk to you again later after I interview some of these great anglers that have agreed to chat with me a bit, and we'll go over all this. So those of you that are listening, Cindy's going to go over all the basics with you again. But as far as if somebody says, okay, how do I sign up, all that, go over that one more time as far as how they become a participant in Fall Mack Days.
We take entries up until the last day. So our website is just being redeveloped. So what we're asking people to do right now is to send your entries in to my email, cindy.benson@cskt.org,
Mm-hmm.
or they can telephone me at 406-270-3386. But they can go out and fish during the day and then come in and enter at the end of the day. We're not going to eliminate anybody from being out there fishing for not having an entry form in. We'll get them entered at any time up until the last day.
Great. And for those of you listening, when you look at the podcast description, whether you went to Apple Podcast or YouTube or on MontanaOutdoor.com, I mean, we're on 25 some sites. When you go to the podcast description, down towards the bottom, there is you'll see it in bold. It says links, and I'll have a link to some articles on MontanaOutdoor.com that you can read about, but also there'll be a link to Cindy's email address. So all you have to do is click it, and it'll open your email program and populate that right in there, and you can send her an email. So make it real easy. Plus, I'll have that phone number for you, too. So
great.
That's going to be
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, you bet.
We appreciate it.
You bet. So that'll be there for you, folks. So check that out. We're going to come back and check with Cindy here in a bit after I talk to some of these fine folks, and we'll wrap it up with her. So, Cindy, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you here in a bit.
Okay.
In Montana, discover a land where adventure roams free. Explore small towns where every corner tells a story and every greeting comes with a smile. Saddle up for breathtaking horseback rides or catch a fish in a crystal clear lake. Spend your evening sharing stories around a campfire under a starlit sky. That's how you Montana. Plan your trip at visitmt.com. That's visitmt.com. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. So we just heard from Cindy Benson, who along with her staff do an incredible job organizing Fall Mack Days. She got us all the basics about this incredible event. So now I want to get some folks in here who will be competing in Fall Mack Days this year. I'm really glad we could do this. I've really been wanting to give all of you listening to this podcast an idea of what it's like to take part in this event from the standpoint of a few different participants. That way, you'll get a few different perspectives of how different people approach and compete in this event. Well, like these folks I'm going to bring in now. Julie Perkins and Terry Krogstad. They will be competing together out on Terry's boat and are boyfriend and girlfriend. Well, let's start with Julie Perkins. Now, Julie, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got involved in fishing the Fall Mack Days tournament.
I grew up in Oregon, and I moved to the Flathead Valley in 1994. And I started fishing in the tournament in 2018 with Terry, and he's the one who got me involved. It looked like it'd be fun, and so I gave it a shot.
Well, that's so you guys are boyfriend, girlfriend, I understand it, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so Terry, just said, hey, I like doing this tournament and I want you to fish with me. What was your first thought when he said that?
I was a little apprehensive because I'm not a professional fisher person. I mean, I fished a little with my dad growing up and a little bit as an adult, but I was far from being a good fisher person. I'd go out and be on the water a lot, but I didn't catch a lot of fish. Mm-hmm. But I thought it would be fun, and so I said, sure, we'll give it a try.
So, Terry, what were you thinking when you decided, hey, let's? I want my sweetie here by my side and doing this. What was your thoughts there?
Well, I think my thoughts were I was pretty good at trolling in the fall tournament, and I thought, Julie could probably do pretty good. She's really mechanical, and she came naturally to running a downrigger. So we're pretty strong at trolling in the fall. That's what we're good at.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just thought there'd be a good chance that she could win the tournament, and she's won it every time but once since she got in there.
Wow. Now, Julie, was it something that you just took to naturally, or is Terry that good of a teacher?
He's a pretty good teacher. He's pretty patient, far more patient than I am. But it's, I think partially I came to it by it naturally, but the first few years, it was horrible. I mean, there were days that were absolutely horrible. I might catch 2 or 3 fish and be on the water from sun up to sundown, and those were tough days, very tough days, because he was catching far more fish than I was, and we're both very, very competitive. So
okay,
that was the first year or two were pretty tough.
Now,
but I got better.
Now, Terry, tell me you didn't rub it in when you were catching.
No, no, I was smart enough not to do that. But,
now, do you both fish the spring and fall Mack Days together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we do.
Now you switch from jigging in the spring to trolling in the fall. Why is that? Go ahead, Terry. I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, well, the fish start to spawn about October, and so we get pretty busy with that. We've got a pretty good setup that we use. We fish right on the bottom, so we make our cannonballs out of a beer can, fill it with lead, and it weighs about 10 pounds. And then use the Scotty downriggers with braided line. So when we do have a wreck, we can get back fishing real quick.
Okay.
And,
so you're putting a beer can full of lead on your downrigger.
Right. Yeah. That way we don't. That way we're not intimidated if we do happen to lose our gear.
Right.
And with the braid, we can get right back at it real quick.
Well, okay. So now that's an interesting approach because, those cannonballs are awful expensive. So,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, it keeps people from fishing, hitting the rocks. Our beer cans, they're all dented up from being on the bottom.
And so, how do you attach the beer can onto that braided line?
It's tied right at the end. I use some tactical cord, probably about 10 feet of it, with the cannonball tied right onto the bottom of it, and then I come up about 4 feet. And then I tie another 4-foot piece of tactical cord on with a Scotty downrigger clip.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes up to a 420-pound swivel is just right for tripping the limit switch on a Scotty downrigger. So it comes around and shuts it off. And it's a real good setup. I kind of looked on the Alaska Fishing Forum and I saw how they were doing it up there and came up with that plan. And then we use mostly a spin and glow. We use a beer can cowbell and then about 28 inches behind it, a spin and glow. And the spin and glow is made of foam, so it floats up a little bit. So we can have the beer can with the weight in it, and then the cowbells, they're kind of riding right on the bottom. Then up about 4 feet is this spin and glow going along. And it's just a super effective way to catch them lake trout.
Now, Julie, was that something? Well, I'll ask you first, Terry. Was that something you were doing before Julie started fishing with you? This beer can technique?
Yeah, it was. And I fished by myself, and it was super busy. I'd run a downrigger on each side of the boat, and actually, I've caught 100 fish before trolling by myself. 100 lake trout in a day. That's a lot of work. So. Since Julie came along, we each just run one downrigger, and it's a whole lot easier. I don't catch as many fish as I used to, but it's a lot easier as I'm getting older.
Huh. Wow, that's fascinating. So what did you think of this setup when this crazy guy says, "Hey, come fishing with me," and then you see him start tying beer cans onto his downriggers and stuff?
Well, I actually thought the beer can thing was pretty inventive. I mean,
yeah, it really is.
I was not super familiar with with downriggers or even how to use them when I first started fishing. So I had not really, I mean, I've seen in the store, I've seen downrigger, stuff, but not seen it in action. So I actually thought this was a pretty good setup, and it does work very well. And truth be told, I've lost a lot of downrigger weights on the bottom of that lake. So
yeah, I
don't
happen.
get yelled at quite so much when it's a 10-cent beer can instead of a $50 weight,
Yeah. So for a couple that's listening to this podcast saying, hey, maybe we ought to do that. Tell us a bit about what your roles are as far as who does what and what advice you would give couples that want to give this a try. Go ahead, Terry. We'll start with you.
As far as trolling, I would say the way that Julie and I catch the fish is we run the boat with remote control from the bow mount. We've got a 36-volt bow mount on the front of the boat, so we're each right on a downrigger, continually running it up and down to stay right on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. So do you have two downriggers running 4 rods then?
No, 2 downriggers with 2 rods. We've just found that if we get too much stuff down there, we have wrecks. We end up churning quite a bit. We'll see a lot of boats out there not catching too many fish, and they're not fishing on the bottom, and they're just going in a straight line, not paying attention to the contours and all that kind of thing. So we just use 2 poles, 1 hook on each pole.
Okay.
So
when you're trolling like that, what are you using on your pole then, Julie? What for trolling? What kind of a rig are you set up with?
Oh, same thing. We have the cowbells and the spinning glow. So
okay.
we're running the same. Sometimes I'll switch it up and try something else if we're not catching. But for the most part, we use that. It seems to work, and occasionally we'll run a line out the back with a spinner on it or something, just long line, and
okay.
Occasionally we'll catch a fish that way. But more often when they're spawning, when spawning's really going on, that we'll catch fish on that what we call the extra pole. But for the most part, it's just running those downriggers up and down.
What color are you using on that spinning glow then?
Oh, we've used a multitude of colors. I have white, chartreuse. Some of them have the metallic wings on them, so those kind of glitter. Some of them glow. I've used a pink and black one. Looks like a pink leopard or a pink zebra. So just kind of depends on the weather and what it seems like they're biting on. Sometimes he'll run a different color than I am, and so if one of us is catching more fish than the other, then we're digging for the same one that he has, because he's catching more fish than I am. And
so now, what's that like when one of you, for example, Terry, what is it like for you when Julie starts pulling in all the fish and your rod's just sitting there doing nothing?
Yeah, well, it's pretty tough.
Now,
it's a tough one.
Do you rib him a little there, Julie, and say, "Hey, what are you doing over there?"
No.
There was one day, ended up at the end of the day, Julie had 43 and I had 13.
Wow.
And I'm supposed to be the guy who knows how to do this, but I finally kind of think I put it together what was going on. So we're using the same thing. I have a tendency to make a right turn with the boat, and the side that she's fishing on, it's got the fast turn on it.
Okay.
And I was catching some more fish, and then I saw that she was letting her line out about 20 feet further than I was. And I think that's what the heck was going on. That's my story now.
Okay. So how deep do you usually set your downriggers at?
Well, we go right to the bottom.
So you're right on the bottom then. Okay.
Yeah. Get close about 10. We let it down pretty quick, and we get about 10 feet from the bottom, then go slow and touch the bottom, then just bring it up a hair.
Okay.
Then just watch that tip of the pole, and if the tip comes up, to lift it up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we pay real close attention to what's coming up. One thing we do with our fish finder is we set different colors for the different depths, like in 20-foot depth increments. It'll go like from red to blue to yellow or whatever. So then you can really see where the points are and the steep contours and all that. Having the different colors on the map, the fishing map of our fish finder makes a big difference.
So you're going into the preferences on your fish finder and assigning those colors for the depths then?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good idea. So then it's
really,
a quick
that really makes a difference.
quick glance and boom, you can see it right there. Okay.
So when you're catching these fish in the fall, a lot of times they'll be up on a hump or something like that, but it's almost always where there's deep water right close by.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of look for that. You study the map and see what you can find as far as that goes. And then on the points too, usually we kind of target 70 to 80 feet and sometimes 100 feet of depth. Even when they're spawning, a lot of times they spawn in shallow water, but they'll kind of stage out in deeper water. And we kind of had that to ourselves for a long time, but now some of the guys are casting, and they're casting with MEPS or flying C or a cam loop or something like that out in 100 feet of water, using two poles and casting one out one side and one the other. And they're catching all kinds of fish casting in that deep water now. But that was kind of our exclusive thing there for a while, catching 80, 100 feet.
Mm-hmm. But
there's a lot of people getting in on it.
But the trolling seems to be the go-to for both of you then. Well, Julie and Terry, we're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, I'd like you both to give us a little advice for couples out there that might be thinking about maybe giving this a try. We'll do that right after this. Hey, gang, thanks for supporting and listening to this podcast. I can't tell you how much it means to all of us that you're here. And speaking of support, we would not be able to do this podcast at all if it weren't for sponsors like Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. It is truly an honor to have Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer on our team. You know, if you own a trailer, you ought to think about adding them to your team, too. They can service your trailer, and when it comes to repairing trailers, well, you won't find anyone better at it than Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. If it's parts you need to do your own service and repairs, well, they are the place for that. Another thing you may not know about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is they install all kinds of accessories for the truck that pulls your trailer. Whether it's just the necessary items to help your truck get the trailer down the road perfectly, or all those gadgets and bells and whistles to dress your truck up a bit and, well, make it your unique style. And here's the best part. The folks that do all those repairs and installations are real technicians. They do things the right way and do it to such a degree of precision and reliability that you can roll down the road with confidence. Whether you need your trailer bearings packed, the whole thing rewired, or the right fifth wheel, or any kind of hitch installed, you're going to know that your trailer is ready to haul what you want, worry-free. No matter if it's getting you and your four-legged coworker to the next rodeo or job, or just hauling a load to the dump, or getting the boat and RV to your favorite fishing hole, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has you covered. And of course, if you need a new trailer, they can set you up with a brand new Diamond C gooseneck equipment, dump trailer, or whatever else you need to haul wherever you are going, worry-free, happy, and looking good, too. Heck, they even carry an amazing line of CM truck beds that'll make your rig look and work like new. It's what they do at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They're in Missoula, or you can find them on the web at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Go see them. We are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast talking with Julie Perkins and Terry Krogstad. So what advice would you guys give as far as someone that's, you know, maybe especially a couple that might be listening saying, boy, I wonder if we ought to try that. Julie, what would you say to them of why they ought to give this a try?
Well, if you enjoy fishing, it's a great way to get out there and have some fun with your significant other, and maybe earn a little money in the process. And it's just being on the water and just spending that time with each other is great. I mean, I can't imagine going out there and fishing with anybody else. I mean, it's just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both highly competitive. So some days are rougher than others, but I've kind of come with the motto: what happens on the boat stays on the boat. And once we get off the boat, we're just we're boyfriend and girlfriend. On the boat, we're still boyfriend and girlfriend, but we're competing against each other, kind of. So,
okay. Well,
most of the time I lose, but I've gotten him a couple of times by one or two fish.
That's got to be healthy for the relationship. Now, how about you, Terry? Were any regrets about getting this highly competitive gal competing it with you?
No, it's a good thing. I know once in a while she's gone for something or other, and I'm fishing by myself, and it's a whole lot harder fishing two downriggers by yourself than one. So now I don't catch as many fish as I used to, but it's a lot more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give couples that are thinking about trying this, Terry?
Well, I would say watch the weather and have a decent sized boat, and also just keep an eye on the other anglers where they're at, and see who's catching fish. Don't get too close to them, but just see how it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That advice about getting down on the bottom, we see a lot of people, as far as trolling goes, just set their downrigger at 100 feet of water and they're trolling at 70 feet. They catch fish once in a while, but if you get her down on the bottom, you're going to catch twice as many fish.
And have patience.
Now, speaking of that, then, Julie, when you guys are out going and let's say you hit a lull in the action and neither one of you are catching anything, how long do you go before you say, hey, maybe we ought to pull up and go to a different spot?
Not long. In that department, we're both pretty impatient.
Okay.
if we're not, I mean, there's lots of guys that will go out there and they'll stay in the same spot all day long.
About how long do you wait before you decide to make the move?
Oh gosh, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe.
You said you've won the women's division now several times. So how many fish usually would it take to win the women's division?
Oh gosh, you got an answer for that, Terry? I don't keep track.
I would say 600 or 700 anyhow.
600 or 700.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get paid for the fish, not only the fish that you catch on the weekend, but also if you fish during the week, you get paid for those fish also. They just don't go towards your tournament numbers. And so that's kind of the number that I keep in mind when I'm fishing, is not only the tournament fish that I've caught, but the fish that I caught Monday through Thursday also.
How about for the guys, Terry?
Far more.
That gets super competitive, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does.
Especially in the spring. There's some guys, the Turners and Jason Malin and the Bensons. They've got some technique. Those guys can really catch some fish, and they'll catch 1,500, 2,000.
Wow. Yeah, I've had them. I've had them on the podcast before, and that's impressive. Now, how many have you caught? What was your biggest number, Terry?
I would say about 1,800 or so, probably.
Wow, that's a lot of fish.
Quite a few fish. Yeah. One year I averaged 73 fish a day.
73 a day. So at the end of a tournament, then, if you don't mind me asking, how much money would that bring into you, Terry?
Well, my best years, I'd won the tournament a few times. You don't get too much for winning the tournament, but it's the number of fish. Mm-hmm. Between spring and fall, I was about 30,000.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's not too bad for 4 months' work. But it's hard. You're fishing daylight till dark through good and bad weather, and just kind of think of it as a job.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of treat ourselves. We take this money and usually go somewhere tropical in the wintertime. So
what a great idea! Yeah,
incentive to catch fish. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you sitting there, Julie, saying, "Okay, let's keep bringing it in because we want to get a really good exotic vacation this year"?
Well, Terry caught the $10,000 fish a couple years ago, and
I was just going to ask it about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Costa Rica and had a great fishing trip. So
wow. Oh, so you guys went fishing even when you were on your vacation, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. So let's talk about this tagged fish. Now, well, before I get into that, I guess I should explain. When we're talking about tagged fish, those are the tagged fish that you heard Cindy mention earlier in the show, and she's going to be back on later, and she'll explain some more about those too. So, which one of you caught the $10,000 fish?
Terry did.
I caught that fish.
Wow. Now, that was back in 2021, right?
I think that was the year, yeah.
Now, did you know you had the $10,000 fish, or? No,
it was about the third fish we caught. We caught it right in front of Blue Bay.
Really?
We started out right at daylight there, and about the third fish I caught, I saw it had a clipped adipose fin. Mm-hmm. So we tie something in its gill so we can find like a piece of string or something so we can identify it later.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't think any more about it, and then that night when we got in, turning our fish in, and I think that was possibly during the COVID time. So we were outside, and they were inside messing with the fish, and we see them scurrying around in there and talking and jabbering. And pretty soon they came out and said, you just got the $10,000 fish.
Wow.
Couldn't believe it.
Now that's a heck of a nice payday there.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Holy smokes. So you never know and really the only way that you know that it's tagged is that clipped adipose fin, right?
Yeah, it's always exciting when you see that clipped fin because you just don't know.
Yeah. Now, Terry, you had mentioned that it's important that you have a decent sized boat. Flathead Lake is a very large lake. It is a lake that the weather can turn on you just boom, like before you know it, and it can get very rough. What would you say is the minimum size boat that you need to have?
I'd say a 16-foot boat with somewhat of a deep hull, not a John boat or anything like that.
Right, so minimum of 16 feet. What size boat are you guys running?
A 20 foot.
And what size motor are you running with that 20-footer?
It's a 150 with 8-horse kicker motor. Mm-hmm. And then I've got a 36-volt Terova bow mount that I use to steer the boat.
So do you guys get out on the water at a set time every morning and come back at a set time then?
Well, we try to get out on the water and see where we want to fish before the sun comes up.
Okay.
And then during the week, you have to have your fish turned in by 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And then during tournament, it's at sunset or a half hour after sunset. So it really just kind of depends on the weather as far, but yes, consistency is definitely a good thing as far as getting out there, first thing in the morning, and staying out as late as you possibly can with, especially if you have good weather.
Okay. And do you guys fish like during Fall Mack Days? Do you fish every single day, Terry?
No, we usually take Monday, Tuesday off anyhow. Okay. And watch the weather. If it's going to be a poor day, we'll stay home. Mm-hmm. But we're out there trying to make that tropical vacation money. So we get out there as much as we can, and it's kind of $5 as far as those fish go. Sometimes I average a little more than that.
Right.
But
the more fish you catch, the more per fish you can make. Right. So
yep.
Yeah. So every day is a payday. do you guys have any idea of what? I mean, have you ever sat down and figured it up as far as what it costs you to do all this?
Why would you want to do that?
That would just ruin everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you don't do the math.
Spoken like
It's about
spoken like a true fisherman. Oh, it costs nothing. I don't. Yeah. Well, before I let you two go, and this probably is hard, but Terry, what would be your favorite memory that you've had so far fishing the Mack Days tournaments?
As far as fishing, there was one time on the last day, you try to get your number. It goes in 25 fish increments, and each increment is a jump in pay. And we were down in Yellow Bay, and it was snowing so hard we had no license plate. We just kept having to throw the snow out of the boat. Couldn't hardly see the shore, but we were catching one fish after the other, and it was just a fun memory. And that's the thing. You have the snow or the wind in your face or the sun or whatever, and just being out there. Mm-hmm. But that day in Yellow Bay was special for whatever reason.
What about you, Julie?
Oh gosh, that was a pretty cool time that he is speaking of. The day that we caught 197 fish was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. That I still haven't topped that one as far as the number of fish that I've caught. But just being on the water and just nature in itself. The sunrises and the sunsets are just phenomenal. And getting off that boat that one day, he caught that $10,000 fish. That was a pretty memorable moment.
Heck yeah.
That was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
So I was quite happy for him. It was pretty cool. That was well deserved. He's been fishing that tournament for so many years. So I thought that was very cool.
It's a well-run tournament too, isn't it?
It is. Cindy is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about that woman. She works her tail off.
Yeah,
and she
really
does a great job.
Yeah, well, I'll be sure and pass that on to her. She'll be on the podcast with us later on. Well, I want to thank both of you so much for your time and your enthusiasm and helping to make this Mack Days tournament special. And of course, it serves a vital purpose in controlling the number of lake trout on that lake and helping some of these native fish get a chance. So it does some good things. So thank you both for coming on the program with me today.
Oh, thank you.
You betcha.
What a great couple, aren't they? Okay, next we're going to talk to another person who's competed in the Mack Days tournaments, and he will be going after Max during this upcoming Fall Mack Days, and he takes a different approach. He jigs exclusively, and he'll tell us about his technique, and will tell us about some of his past experiences, which should fill you in on some pretty cool stuff. So that'll be yet another perspective for all of you about this fun and unusual fishing tournament that's coming up next. I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. It means a great deal to everyone that works on this podcast to have so many of you listening each week. Thank you all so very much. Another huge thank you needs to also go out to my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Without their support, we simply would not have a podcast. Just like us, you can depend on Superior Hardwoods of Montana, especially when you're ready to turn the place you live into your home. Now, what do I mean? Well, the place you live is not really your home until it reflects who you are. One of the best ways to do that is to go see my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. For example, they have some incredible antique redwood reclaimed from a Marcus Daly water plume built back in 1917, running from Georgetown Lake to the Phillipsburg mines. They have many other reclaimed options to choose from, as well as like corral board, antique oak, granary lumber, barn siding that is beautifully aged from natural weathering. That could be perfect for your home's soffit, siding, or paneling on an accent wall. They also have antiqued hand-hewn beams and saw-cut timbers that in a way is a tribute to our American history and to your home. Superior Hardwoods is also the place to find the perfect wood to create the ultimate outdoor space, like that incredible deck you've always wanted. Yeah, Superior Hardwoods of Montana is for sure your decking headquarters. Not only do they have a variety of exotic hardwood decking options, but they also have domestic classic traditional cedar. And the best part of that is they are offering exclusive pricing on gorgeous high-quality cedar decking right now. There are lots of benefits to cedar decking. It is resistant to temperature and weather conditions. It won't warp due to moisture. It is rot resistant and requires less maintenance than other softwoods. Go see them on the web at superior-hardwoods.com or stop by their showroom in Missoula and let them guide you through the woods. Remember, on the web it's superior-hardwoods.com. Oh, you're going to love what they do to your home. I wanted to bring on one of the anglers that's fished this tournament, quite a bit. David McDaniel is his name. David, thank you very much for joining us today, and appreciate you spending a little time with me to talk about Fall Mack Days.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we get into, what the reasons are that you like to fish this tournament, tell us a little bit about yourself as far as where you're from and that sort of thing.
I've been in Montana about 16 years, and I absolutely love it. I've been fishing the tournament for probably close to 12. I got started because my son wanted to go fishing, and Stephen Nathy, who used to win it when he was a 15-year-old kid, he was just a youngster, and he just dominated the fishing tournament. He took us out fishing, and so I've been a fisherman my whole life, and I've just loved it. And the Mack Days, it's just this crazy combination of incredible fishing. If you can figure out how to catch them, and a lot of us do, you can catch a ton of them, and it's great competition. You kind of know where you're at every weekend or basically every day. So it's just, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. The guys that are at the top, it's not a 2 or 3 hour fishing day. It's a, 10 or 12 sometimes. So it's a grind, but it's just, the most incredible tournament I've ever fished in.
Yeah. Now, where do you live in Montana?
I live in Polson, Montana.
Oh, so you're right close to all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty fortunate. And it's been really good because it's just, I would travel for it, but it just makes it so convenient being able to go home every night and sleep in my own bed and, get the batteries charged on everything and get everything ready to go for the next day.
Well, yeah. And what is interesting, though, is we get so many different people to this tournament, from like yourself, people that are local living in Polson and around Flathead Lake or in Flathead County, all the way to people from, way out of the state of Montana that love to come up for it. So it really does kind of bring people from all different walks of life, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. There's people that come from Washington almost every tournament, and there's people that come from, gosh, I don't even know where, but it just they come and they stay the whole tournament in the campgrounds and just have a really, really good time.
Now, there's 2 different tournaments every year. There's the Spring Mack Days and the Fall Mack Days. Now, do you fish both of those?
I usually do, yes.
Okay. What would you say are the main differences? Obviously one's in spring and one's in fall, but are there different techniques that you use in spring as opposed to fall?
There's not that much that I do because I prefer to jig. Some of the guys in the fall will cast because the bigger fish come in to spawn, and so you can irritate them with some lures and some jigs. And so there's people that troll. There's people that throw lines into 4 to 6 feet of water and catch a bunch that way. But I tend to jig, so my style stays pretty much the same. But this last year, I picked up a boat that has a trolling motor, but it's just like I still can't see myself doing that. It's just like it's not engaging enough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I haven't done well enough yet.
It seems like a lot of people really do prefer the jigging in that. However, I have met a few that they're just completely sold on the trolling in the in the fall, but it really just depends on the fisherman, and I guess there really isn't any hard fast rule. It's whatever you're most comfortable with, right?
Right. You can do anything you want to catch them. It's trolling works good as the fish are up closer to the shore, and it slows down during the summer and early fall, but as the fish come in, then it gets a lot busier.
Mm-hmm. Now, where do you usually fish in Fall Mack Days? What part of the lake is there any certain part you tend to concentrate on, or are you all over the place?
I'm kind of all over the place. I've been kind of a mid-lake fisher most of the time. I'll find ridges out there that I like, and I go to the same ones a lot that I like. And the fish do move around. In this last tournament that I fished, boy, I struggled finding them. They were just, and it ended up being they were just about 10 feet deeper than they normally are. And normal isn't normal. There's like not a certain depth that they're always at, but it just you chase them around. But they were catching them at 240, which is ridiculous. But it's just
wow.
You catch them wherever you catch them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in the fall, do you tend to be super close to the bottom? Are you catching many suspended? Tell us a bit about that.
When you're jigging, you're basically going all the way to the bottom and dropping to the bottom to where you have no weight on your line. And then you jig up about 12 to 18 inches, or some people 2 feet. And then you just, you have to have a pretty sensitive pole. And then you just watch the tip of your pole go down. And if there's any inconsistency, you have to set the hook, because they will bite it and spit it out, and you will catch nothing. You really have to hook them. So that's kind of the trick is, you got to hook them.
Mm-hmm.
So people that are the better, hookers are the better fishermen, and they're the ones that are catching the ridiculous numbers.
So when you notice that inconsistency, that's a sign that, okay, I've got a Mackinaw, which is a lake trout, that's messing with it. Then are you setting that hook super hard?
Yes.
Okay.
You kind of want to give it the pull their head off thing, and it never works, but it sure is fun trying. And if you get the snout, you have to give it a really hard jerk, because it won't go through.
Right.
I mean, it's just their snout is tough, and so if you kind of give it a gentle jig or a gentle set, it doesn't stay there, and so when they're coming up, they don't like it, so they'll spin and twist, and you have to keep constant pressure on the entire time up, or they have the opportunity to get away. And they're good at that.
Well, yeah, and the thing about this tournament is, for those that really are into it to make some pretty good money, it's the number of fish that you want to bring in. And so the last thing you need is losing one, and so you spent that time bringing them up, and now you got to start over. So are you trying to bring them up as quick as you can just so you can get it off the hook and then back in the water?
Pretty much. You just kind of have to do that fine line of, absolute speed and keeping the fish on, because, it's just, if you go too fast, they gas, and then, they lose their air pocket, and then about 15, 20 feet, they just come to life like they're maniacs, and so they'll twist and spin and everything. So you kind of want to do a nice, firm, steady pace, so they don't gas up too much, or they don't have the opportunity to ungas.
Okay. Now you can use two rods. How do you manage that when you're, you got to look for those subtleties and all that with two rods? How does that work for you?
That's all I've ever done. I've always used, two poles, and you're jigging left-handed, right-handed. And, as you get better setups, you get better opportunities. So you're kind of just jigging alternately. And so you kind of watch, and you're always feeling, you just, sometimes your line will be down there, and they'll bite it. I mean, you'll get a fish by, not dumb luck, but by being in the right place. But most of the time you have to hook them. So you're lifting up, and then you watch that go down, and then with your other pole just as that one's done, you lift that up, and then you just kind of turn your eyes to that and keep an eye on that, and kind of hopefully you get a little inconsistency, and that's just them sucking the bait into their mouth.
Right.
And they could do it from above, they can do it from below. So it's just a matter of any inconsistency that is not the bottom, is you're going to try to set the hook.
Wow. So you've got a rod in each hand. You're alternating the up and down. You feel that inconsistency. Now, what do you do with the other rod that doesn't have anything on it? You pop that in a rod holder and.
No, I mean, ideally, if you have a good set, then you can do that. But most of the time, I just drop it on the floor of the boat.
Okay.
And it's dropped. Hopefully, sometimes they're thrown. You just kind of like,
sure.
It just depends on how intense you are and how the fishing is. It's just, when the fishing's crazy, you don't want to stop, because while they're hungry and happy, then you want to catch as many as you can. So it's nonstop action, and it can run from, 10 minutes to 2 hours to 3 or 4 hours. And so the limit is 100.
Right.
And the last tournament, there was a guy that he averaged, Jason Malin in years before has done it too, has averaged 100 fish a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've talked to Jason before, and that's amazing when you think about 100 a day.
That's pretty insane. It's just when you're a good fisherman, and you have your better tournaments where you might average 60, or even 40, averaging 40 a day is a pretty solid tournament. But just thinking twice as many is just almost unfathomable. But
yeah,
I see Jason fish around me, and he just has a certain technique and style, and just does a great job of catching fish.
Wow. Now, what happens if you get a double hookup?
You do set one in a rod holder, and then you just kind of hope for the best. But
hope he stays on, and then you work on one at a time, huh?
Yeah, and then you try to angle it as far as away as as the other one, so that way it doesn't get tangled, because you don't want to tangle.
No,
but with that, you also keep extra poles. Sometimes you keep 2 or 4 extra poles that are left in right-handed reels, and so if you do get a big tangle, you don't take the time to undo it. Right. I mean, if it's a simple one, you do, but a lot of times you just grab the next pole in line and get that one in the water after you get the other 2 up, and then you look and see if it's worth the time to redo it, and you just reset up on the other line.
Mm-hmm. Now, what bait are you using during Fall Mack Days? What's your setup?
I use cut bait. I use cut bait with usually a glow grub.
Okay.
And that's the kind of round, kind of dumb looking thing that has a little tail on it. And I don't know I don't know if it's because they glow or the size, or if they mimic something that's down there. But those seem to work for me. I've used Rattle Disasters and some other stuff, that Zimmer Tackle makes,
mm-hmm.
but those glow grubs seem to work good, and those are kind of my forte. That's what I like to use.
So you're using a
fresh cut bait, and you can get the frozen cut bait, or I tend to try to catch, in the summer I catch a bunch of fish and freeze it, and so I have my own cut bait. I've seasoned them in the past, and then there's times where I just use fresh cut bait that's been frozen.
Okay.
The glow grub has a hook on it by itself, mm-hmm. and then I use a fly also, and I put a little piece of bait on that also.
Oh, okay.
So you're using a fly that's about 10 to 12 inches, above the glow grub, and you have a little piece of bait on that and a bigger piece on the bottom one.
So
that's what I do anyway.
Kind of a little offshoot of the Zimmer rigs then, some of those little fly rigs that he has. Yeah.
Yes. Huh. Absolutely.
Is that easy to find in the local sporting goods, like at Snappy's and stuff like that? Or
yeah, Snappy's carries them, and a number of the gas stations have them, and Zimmer's is right in Pablo, and they're usually open, a lot during the seasons, but you can find them and you can make them yourself too.
Okay.
It's, sometimes people, instead of using a fly, use a plain hook that just holds bait. So it's just a matter of, it depends on how aggressive the fish are. When they're hungry, it kind of doesn't matter quite so much, but when they're finicky, to have a fly on there that has a glow and a look like something else, that's pretty cool. That helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the fish are finicky. They don't like weather changes. It can be nasty. It can be blowing 20 miles an hour, but if it's consistent, they'll bite the whole time. But if you have a storm come in and a storm go out and a storm come in, they get very lackadaisical, and it's not a good day fishing.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I've noticed about this tournament that it seems to me anyway, that, a lot of tournaments, you don't see the contestants talking to each other much or giving each other advice much. I've been around the walleye circuit a lot, and everybody stays pretty tight-lipped. But it seems like in Mack Days, a lot of you are sharing thoughts and ideas with each other. Am I right about that? It seems like that's what I hear a lot.
Pretty much. Some guys do, and some guys are pretty tight-lipped, and that's fine. It just, it is a competition.
Sure.
But it's also, it's like a big family out there. It just, everybody is concerned about everybody else. I've had people, when I've had boat problems in the past, I've had people help me, and just great people. There's really a lot of good people out there. So.
Yeah. And that's what I like about it, and I always encourage people that have never fished it before, feel free to ask questions and get to know people. But one of the things that has amazed me the most, I think, about this tournament is the amount of money that a person can make. If you don't mind saying, how much have you made? What's the most you've made in Fall Mack Days?
In fall, I don't think I've made nearly as much. Probably my biggest tournament, I made about 17,000.
Wow!
In one tournament spring.
Wow!
That was my best tournament. A lot of it is quantity, number of fish, but there's also lotteries, and one person can catch one fish and they can win $1,000 prize at the awards banquet, or however they do it. Because it's changed a little bit.
Sure,
but. A combination, there's a lot of different prizes other than just fish. The fish count really is to help us pay for everything, because we're out there all day. We use gas, we use bait, a lot of maintenance, a lot of, taking care of it. So they encourage you to catch more fish by, say at 100 fish, you might get $2 a fish or whatever it is. And then when you get to, 700, 800, you might get $5 a fish.
Right.
So
yeah, it keeps going up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it incrementally keeps on going. And so you want to catch 1,000 fish in a tournament. I mean, that's kind of your goal when you're one of the top anglers. You want to get to that 1,000 fish mark to where you're going to have a good tournament no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to win a lottery when you have 1,000, 1,200 fish to have a great tournament.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you out there every day for the tournament?
Usually all 3 days on the weekends.
Okay.
I fish during the week, and it's just like I don't think it's worth it for me, because it's just taxing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work. It's not, it's not a day where you're sitting on the side of the, beach and you're kind of just got a line in the water. You're double fisted jigging for 10, 12 hours a day.
A lot of work. So when you made that 17,000, that was still just fishing 3 days a week.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody that's, say, listening to this podcast right now and thinking, I might try that? What would you say to them?
I would say that come out and do it, because it's just, there's a lot of people who will help you, and talk to Cindy. Cindy is just the best tournament director, and she's awesome, but she'll head you towards people that'll help you. I mean, I don't think there's that many people that won't give you information. when you're a good fisherman, the better fishermen don't give you information. But when you're a newbie, I think everybody would be willing to help you because they want to keep the tournament going because it is fun. It's great competition, and it's just like we said, the best tournament out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And how many years have you been doing this so far?
I would guess about 12 or 13.
Okay, so obviously you're having a good time, or you wouldn't be doing this for 12 or 13 years.
Right.
And for people that love to fish, I mean, this is an incredible tournament because you've got a lot of fishing you can do. For people that just like to get out and have some beautiful scenery and have fun, you can still pull in some decent money, can't you?
Yeah, you don't have to catch a ridiculous amount of fish to have a good tournament.
Well, I won't keep you too long because I know you've got things to do and getting ready for the tournament yourself. But maybe you could share with us, what do you think is maybe one of the biggest mistakes that a new fisherman might make that maybe you could help them avoid?
Just being very aware that when you're fishing, that they don't bite really hard sometimes. That inconsistency is just, your line is dropping down and you watch the tip of your pole and it either goes up a little bit. I mean, we're talking a quarter-inch, half-inch. It's just the weight goes down consistent all the time. So if it goes down a little faster or if it goes up a little bit, you have to set the hook. And it's just like being really aware of that you're fishing. And then once you start catching fish, then you figure out that, hey, it's not nearly that tough. It's just you got to really, really pay attention. So my biggest thing to say is just really pay attention to what you're doing, and get a rod that's comfortable for you, but you can see when they bite. You can use a firm rod, and it'll sting your arm when they hit it pretty good. But a softer, good quality pole is really going to help you because you're going to be able to see a lot more because it's not as much feel as it is what you see. And that's for me anyway.
Good advice. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for spending so much time with us and really sharing your advice and that. I hope everyone will take David's advice and give it a try. If you haven't, or maybe you haven't done it in a while, give it a try. And, you may not be getting $17,000 right out of your first time, but you're going to learn a lot and have a lot of fun. So thank you so much, David, for taking the time to do that. And if people have questions, I'm going to give my email out and they can email me and I'll pass them on to you and I'll get back to them with your answers.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. I wanted to talk with another angler who's had very good success and likes fishing the tournament, and that's Joe Minnehan. And Joe, you're driving along somewhere out there in the Big Sky country right now, huh?
Yes, sir. Just put gas in Mama's pontoon, so I don't got to do it this weekend.
There you go.
It gives me more time to fish, buddy.
There you go. You got Mama all gassed up and ready to roll, huh?
She'll leave me alone until Monday, so I'm good.
All right. Well, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll get into fishing Fall Mack Days. Where are you from? And as far as where you're living at right now, and where are you from originally?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Kalispell. Never going to leave. Still living here, loving it. Getting a little big, but, whatever.
Well, tell you what, Kalispell's a pretty amazing place. That's a hard place to leave.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
How long have you been fishing in the Mack Days tournaments?
I think about 6 seasons.
6 seasons now. And do you usually fish in both the spring and fall Mack Days, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. I'm too lazy to hike for elk anymore, and my body can't take it. So, yeah, I bought me a fishing boat, and that's my hang.
What kind of fishing boat did you get?
I got a Duckworth.
Oh, nice.
Big, nasty noisy jet. People can hear me for miles. They all know.
They know Joe's a coming, huh?
Here comes Minnehan.
What would you say are the main differences between I mean, as far as the fish you're going after, it's lake trout on both spring and fall Mack days, but and a lot of anglers that I talk to, it seems like the technique tends to change between spring and fall Mack days. Is that for you?
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in the fall, a lot of people are doing really good trolling and downrigger and stuff like that. But I'm kind of hung up on the jigging. My boat isn't very conducive to trolling, and I don't have that kind of patience. But yeah, a lot of people run downriggers and whatnot in the fall. And they seem to do pretty well.
Yeah, and you know, they kind of varies between the different anglers. Now, do you jig both spring and fall then?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yep. Now, as far as your approach and how you jig for them, does that change much between spring and fall?
A lot of time, it's all about depth.
About depth.
It's
about
depth. You know, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you can go to 230 feet and catch fish, or you can go to 110 and catch fish. It all depends on the mood of the fish. So you need to have some pretty good electronics so you can find them, because they all hug the bottom and they're pretty hard to see.
What kind of electronics do you use, Joe?
I've got a Hummingbird. It's a 7G. I can't even remember the name of it, but it's pretty good. You know, I can pretty much spot fish pretty much anywhere. I know I've heard Garmin is amazing.
Yeah,
but that's a whole different. I'm old, so me trying to figure out new stuff is going to be pretty rough.
Well, that seems to be about half the battle with these new electronics is you know, learning the new systems. But you know, the new forward facing sonar and all that has really become very popular for a lot of people. But
you know, it is. But the thing is you're I don't know if this is a word, but you're depthfully challenged when you try to use that stuff. You know, you're using side scan and all that. You're not going to see stuff at 240 feet.
Yeah.
Or 220. You know.
What's the deepest you've ever caught one of these Macks? What's the deepest depth your lure was at?
About 245.
Wow.
50.
Now
Got to go where the fish are. You know.
How long does it take you to bring a fish up from 245 feet?
Well, it all depends if they're 6 inches or 28 inches. You know, typically it's not that big of a deal. You know, to bring them up, it just kind of wears you out.
Yeah,
if you're doing it all. You know, but
now. In the fall, do you tend to go to more of the shallower depths because of when the spawn gets going in that, or?
Well, that's the thing. Since I'm in a tournament, I don't like looking for them bigger fish at all.
Right.
You know, each fish, it doesn't matter if it's 32 inches or 28 or 7. You know, it's all on the numbers. So we kind of tend to stay away. Unless we're having a really, really bad day, we'll go in and hit some of the bigger ones and hope to God we don't get a slaughter.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and that seems to be the technique or the strategy, I should say, that a lot of the anglers that fish the Mack Days tournaments on a regular basis is you're getting paid the same no matter the size of the fish. So why not go for the easier ones, the smaller ones, and get as many as you possibly can. And so that's your. Now, as far as how you jig for it and that, a lot of the guys and gals that I've talked to that jig all the time like you do, they've got a rod in each hand, and they're basically jigging like crazy with both hands. Is that the way you do it too?
Yeah, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times what I do is that I've got a bait caster that I use for a jig, and it's straight under the boat. And then I've got a spinner that I throw way out there and try to locate fish.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I keep throwing, I like my fishing partner. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I keep throwing long, because he can't throw very far because I'm way better than that. But he'll let me. He says, "Okay, you catch 3 fish, we're moving closer."
Okay.
So that's what I'll do. I'll just throw on my side of the boat, all 3 corners. You know, I'll throw to the front side, straight out the back, and if I pick up 3 different fish, typically, if you hit bottom and you get a bite, you move.
Okay. That's
You know, and you just chase them around.
So that's some good teamwork there. So you've got one partner just vertical jigging on one side of the boat. You're out casting and looking for new prospects, new areas to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now, since you can have 2 rods, do you have one that's just vertical, that's just hanging there, or?
Yeah, well, they're never just hanging there. You know, I'll put it in the pole holder and I'll jig mine in a couple of feet and I'll let it lay. They tend to like to pick it up in the mud. It's like they're covering it,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as you start moving it, they'll hit it.
Oh.
So I'll leave my dragger in, and then I'll go back. I'll jig a couple times, and I'll jig my dragger a couple times, and I'll get a hit.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And obviously, you know, the limit is 100. Everyone fishing Mack Days, you'd love to have 100 every day. Is there a minimum that you're trying to hit that you say, okay, in other words, I guess a better way to ask it is, what would you consider to be a good day? I mean, obviously 100 is a good one. That's the most you can have in a day.
100 is absolutely amazing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how some guys do it. I am not that guy.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, I'm kind of like a 50 fish.
Okay.
50 fish is a pretty good day for me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you know, and so, you know, that's actually a really good day. But, you know, it diminishes in the fall, though. That's the only thing. You know, you got to work a lot harder in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you suppose that is?
Well, I think they disperse a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think they're all schooled up and everything. But, you know, the thing is I don't venture to the south end of the lake that much. But I think the south end does a lot better in the fall than the north end.
Oh, okay.
So, like off the delta and whatnot. But on the flip side, spring, the delta muds up.
Right.
So this year, we were extremely fortunate. You know, because we didn't have the big runoff and pushed us all the way down to Woods Bay out of the mud. You know, so we got to hang out in the Delta this year. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So for Fall Mack Days, what you still stay on the north end of the lake then?
Well, yeah, we try it.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, we keep creeping south.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because we live in Kalispell and we don't have to drive clear to or whatever to put in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we just keep creeping south. But, you know, Yellow Bay is pretty good in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to hone in on them. And they're not traveling in packs like they do in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hit and miss.
So when you're coming from Kalispell, then where do you put in? Where do you put your boat in? Wayfarers. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then do you go home each evening then, or do you stay on the lake?
Pardon me?
You go home every night then, or do you camp by the lake?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, you got your check-in time, so.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, you got to check in by, what is it, 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, well, it all depends. Cindy told us dark. Well, what's dark, Cindy? So we kind of treat it like hunting time.
Uh-huh.
You know, a half hour after the sun goes down, you better be checking in.
Yeah, and for those of you listening to the podcast right now, we're going to have Cindy on at the end of the podcast, so we'll corner her and get that try to nail that down as tight as we can for you, Joe.
Yeah.
Now, as far as your,
Can I just say a little something about Miss Cindy Benson?
Sure.
She is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
You call her, she answers her phone. I mean, like my buddy last year caught the biggest fish, 36 some odd pounds. She was willing to come from Blue Bay to Wayfarers to weigh this thing, to get an official weight.
Yeah.
That is just amazing to us. You know, it's like, holy cow, that's cool.
Well,
She,
this seems to be a main thread in the conversations I have with everybody about Mack Days, and that is Cindy Benson is amazing. And, that's why this is one of the, I'd say one of the best run tournaments of any tournament in the state, and that's because of her and her staff.
Oh,
they just make
everybody
it amazing.
in her organization is absolutely amazing. I mean,
they really are.
It's very impressive. They handpick them. They're all good people. But anyway, I just had to get that out there because she warms my heart.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Joe, as far as the jigs you're using, talk about the different jigs you use and colors and
well, it kind of all depends. Typically I like to use just like a white glow jig, 3/4 ounce. But the tails, and that's what's weird to me. Glowing white head, but some days they like glow tails, some days they like pearl tails, some days they like green with little sparklies in them tails. All of them are 3-inch. Because the smaller fish, likes a smaller presentation. So,
sure.
But the kicker is, it's like we're all scared to use bigger stuff because you're going to draw in the wrong crowd, and then it's going to take you 20 minutes to bring a great big fish in. Everyone on the boat has to wind up because this damn fish is swimming circles. So then you're sitting there, and then come to find out, it's a slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So the tinier stuff is typically better.
Okay. What kind of rod do you use typically?
My most favorite is my bait caster rod. It's G. Loomis NRX. Super fancy. I could catch a goldfish at 220. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, buddy. That rod is insane. Now, thing is, you have to get a second mortgage to buy one, but it was the best purchase that I've ever made.
I was going to say, you got expensive taste, my man.
Well, I got $1,000 wrapped into that one rod and reel.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
but that's not to say that everybody has to have that. I mean, people.
No, it's just I just kind of figure I'm at a different level, and I'm stupid enough to where I need the most help I can get.
Well, the old thing I always said was you got to spend money to make money. And that worked pretty good right up until the time I got divorced. Kidding. Anyway, so you've got the rod that you like, that you favor too, and that. What advice would you give to someone that listening to this podcast that maybe has never fished Mack Days before and is hearing all this thinking, I got to give that a try? What kind of advice would you give them for a first timer?
Well, the thing that I always recommend people that are talking to me, because they all think I'm crazy because I'm so deep into this. The thing that I recommend, if you're going to do it, go with a medium, heavy, extra fast rod. No longer than 6.5 feet. because you lose a bunch of sensitivity if you go beyond that. If you're jigging.
Okay.
And then use a lighter line. Don't, like, I run 6 pound fire line, just because it sinks faster, and I can put more of it on my reel.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But just, I don't know. It's really hard because the Macks, they do not let you know that they're there very good. So you've got to have a pole and an eye. You just can't put your pole in the pole holder and expect something to grab it and run. There are days like that, but you got to give them something to chase. They're a predator. They don't want to sit there and look at some dead thing floating on the bottom of the lake. Stay on the very bottom. Stay on the very bottom. Bounce that thing in the mud, no matter how deep you are. You can't get up above like 2 feet. If you get up above 2 feet, you ain't gonna catch nothing. I don't know. It's just weird. It's crazy to me. But
that's where they make their living is right in that area. Now, do you put any kind of a bait on your jigs or any kind of a scent or anything?
Well, we do them both. It like me and my fishing partner, we split it up. It's like, what are you running? Well, I'm running P-mouth with no shrimp glow. Shrimp glow is it's just Mike's shrimp flavored and it's glow, and that's kind of our go-to. And then sometimes we brine our stuff too, the green, brine it. So we've got a smorgasbord on the back of my boat, and we keep trying different things until someone gets very, very active, and then we'll all swap to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes sense. If you got 2 people on the boat, like you say, you try the different things, see what's going to make it go, and then jump onto it until it goes.
The same thing until somebody starts knocking them.
Right.
It's like, I always fish different. Like, what are you fishing with? I'm doing this. Oh, well, I wanted to do that, but now I can't. So, but that's typically what like every day is a new day with them things. Sometimes they like this, sometimes they like that. Some people drag flies behind their jig heads. I've never been a fan because it's always in my head that my fly's snarled up around my hook and I'm dragging for nothing. But a lot of people very well with that.
Well, and in just the 3 different interviews that we've done here, you folks that are listening, you can tell you got to experiment, and then you find out what's working for you. I guess the thing I'm trying to say is there's not any real hard, fast rule. Go with what's working for you and work it. That's what you got to do. Of course, asking other anglers, and that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is what I love about this tournament is that all the anglers seem to be much more open to share with each other and talk a bit about what's working and all that. And so for somebody that's new to the tournament, I think this is an excellent tournament for that reason, because you can learn from other anglers, hang out by the campfires afterwards and just learn a little. And people are usually pretty good about sharing some knowledge, aren't they?
Absolutely. Especially, the only thing that us anglers on the lake get a little perturbed about is people coming up and tying off next to your boat. That's just because there's pretty good money involved in it. But I'll tell you what, run into me up at the boat ramp when I'm loading my boat, I'll tell you everything I know. I'll show you what I'm using as long with everybody else that I fish with. We've got a pretty good crew.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all, I'm at the very bottom of the crew, but like my buddy Clint Spear and all those guys, they're all like in the top 5 all the time. I'll tell you what, Clint will tell you anything.
See, and that's what I love about this tournament is everybody's in it together. Because bottom line, I mean, all the anglers are working together to try to drop the numbers of these lake trout down and help the native fish and that.
Right.
So, you're all working together, but you are competing in as well. But the money can get pretty big, as you mentioned. If you don't mind me asking, what's the most you've ever made fishing in a Mack Days tournament?
$4,200.
4,200?
Not too bad for 2 months.
Heck no. You're covering your costs and maybe putting a little, like you say, in the rat hole for something that you need later.
Yep. The emergency boat fund is what we call it.
There you go. Yeah. What would you say is probably your favorite memory so far of on Mack Days? Is there one that stands out to you?
I think it's my buddy catching that big fish because he freaked out like a little girl. I mean, dang fish came up under the boat, and
really
he didn't see it until it was only 3 foot down. So
wow.
Yeah, we have this great big net on my boat. We call it the Great White. It's huge. It's the guy that owned the boat before me was a salmon steelhead guy. And so he's got this thing, and he's like, "Man, this thing's heavy." So anyway, I wound up all of my stuff, wound up his extra reel, and when that fish came out from under the boat, he about lost his mind. He said, get him. I laughed so hard, but yeah, I couldn't hardly pull that thing into the boat.
Yeah, you thought you had Jaws in your net, didn't you?
Oh man, it was crazy. That thing was awesome. That's probably one of my most favorite as well. Besides, my daughter last year had a phenomenal day. She actually placed third in the spring in the ladies. She nailed it. So that was pretty cool too. Me, I'm just out there doing my thing. I love catching fish, but I'll tell you, if I could bring someone else into it, especially like my daughter.
Sure. Yeah.
It just blows me away. But yeah, it was pretty funny. Pretty good day.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's about, my friend. Well, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today and explaining your experiences and that. And I hope that folks have learned something from you. And when they see you out on the water, they can ask you if when you're packing up at the end of the day or before you head out and on the dock, they can see you.
Yep. Just look at that noisy Duckworth with fishing pole holders all over on the roof. That's me.
There you go.
Talk to you.
All right, Joe. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Best of luck to you in Fall Mack Days, and
thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you up on the leaderboard.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend. Joe Minnehan, thank you very much.
You betcha, partner.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just another one of these enthusiastic Mack Days fishermen. I mean, you hear that. You can just hear the kind of fun you're going to have in this tournament. This is probably one of my favorite times of the year, both in the spring and the fall, as far as the podcasts I do, because you really get the feeling of the excitement that this tournament brings, and just the fun that these people have. So I hope listening to Joe there gives you that idea that, maybe I ought to try that this year. I hope you do. We'll be back with more next. In Montana, discover a land where adventure roams free. Explore small towns where every corner tells a story and every greeting comes with a smile. Saddle up for breathtaking horseback rides or catch a fish in a crystal clear lake. Spend your evening sharing stories around a campfire under a starlit sky. That's how you Montana. Plan your trip at visitmt.com. That's visitmt.com. All right, back now with Cindy Benson. Boy, those were some great interviews. I hope you folks really enjoyed that. A lot of fun. Boy, we had some real characters there. Cindy, you rounded up some fun people for me to talk to. Wow. Just some great stories, great memories, and they were kind enough to share with me the amount of money that they have pulled in these tournaments, and it just blows me away.
Yes.
It was great. In talking to Terry and Julie, they take that money that they make, and they're out there competing, having fun, but they take that money and they go on a tropical vacation with it. And what a neat idea. So
they put in the time too. I mean, they're out there in freezing cold weather, both of them.
Mhm.
Some days, it's hard on them, but then they go and enjoy it when they're finished.
Yeah.
So it's great.
We just got some great advice on all that from them and all these other great anglers. So thanks to all of them again. That was just so much fun to talk to them. So Cindy,
Right.
go ahead.
When you talk about though how much money they make, we also remind people that it costs a lot of money to do this. If you're going to be serious and go out there every single day, it does add up.
Mhm.
So it's not all just cash that they put in their pocket.
Right. Well, was it Terry or I'm trying to think now. We had so many great stories, but I said now, about how much money do you spend to get involved in it? And he goes, now that's no fun to add that up. He said, we just add up the winnings. The other the other stuff, we're addicted to fishing anyway. We're going to buy that anyway. So, and what was it? Joe was talking about how this is a way he can buy some of the more expensive fishing gear, and Mama doesn't have to know about it.
Yeah.
So, great stories there. So let's go over the basics one more time again, Cindy, just so everybody understands how it works. So we're talking Fall Mack Days. This starts September 5th. Now, as Cindy said earlier in the show, you can get involved anytime, but give us the dates, the 5th till November 3rd, is it?
That's correct.
Okay.
9 weeks, Monday through Sunday, you can fish. I mean, what more could you ask for if you're a real avid angler? So Flathead Lake is where this happens. We take fish all day long up until 6 o'clock Monday through Thursday, and then up until 9 o'clock or half hour after the sun goes down Friday through Sunday. We have to have a time limit, or these guys would stay out there all night. So fish have to be turned in the same day they're caught. The tribes the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes have sponsored up to $200,000 in this event. There's lots of ways to win. There's, lottery prizes. There's tagged fish. There's bonus dollars. There's all kinds of different categories. So come out and join us. We'd love to see new people getting involved in this.
Mm-hmm. Well, in fact, Terry and Julie just told me about the $10,000 tagged fish that they caught in 2021.
Right.
That was an amazing story.
It was.
They pull this fish in. They see that little clip adipose fin, so they go, okay, that means that's a tagged fish. And they were talking about how they turned their fish in, and they were, I guess, looking in the window or something, watching you guys, and they said they saw some kind of a commotion, and then out you came saying, you got the $10,000 fish.
Yeah, I think that was during the time where we weren't letting people in the building.
Right, yeah, it was around COVID time, yeah. Uh-huh.
Right, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
They were so excited.
Yeah, so for somebody that doesn't know if they have a tag fish, so when they turn their fish in, what do? You look for that clipped fin and then you scan those? Is that how that works?
Yes. We tell the anglers, if you have a fish with the adipose fin gone, that's the one back along the back by the tail. It's a little fleshy fin that sticks up there. If it's gone, we would like them to mark that fish somehow, put an electrical tie through the jaw, or put rubber bands or yarn or something around the tail. So they bring it in. Our staff is also trained to watch for that. One time a $10,000 fish was caught by our staff. The angler didn't even know he had it.
Wow.
So we train them to watch for that as they're counting the fish in. We find one of those that's got a clipped fin. We bring it in. I have a scanner that I use to scan over the jaw of that fish. That's where those tags are. It's in the fleshy cheek of the fish. We scan it. If a number pops up on there, I go to my computer, punch in that number, and it tells me how much that fish is worth. Every fish that we tag is put in our computer system in a file. So I've got all those numbers there, and everyone comes up, and it's got a number associated with it that tells me the value.
Okay.
And those high dollar ones are tagged the week before the event begins, because we want to be pretty sure that they're still out there when each event starts. Then when the event is over, they're revalued down to the $500 to $100 value for the next event.
Okay. All right. Well, that is just, you never know what you're going to get. So that's another fun thing that, even if you're not, doing the hard and heavy everyday thing, you can still possibly pull in a $10,000 fish or a lot of the other prizes.
That's right.
So you can fish 7 days a week if you want to. Friday through Sunday are more of what you call the higher dollar days. Explain that one more time, just so we understand.
Yeah. Those are the days we have the big lottery prize categories, the top angler categories, large fish categories, small fish. All those extra prizes are Friday through Sunday, because those are the days most people can come out. Monday through Thursday, we do give out lottery prizes and Siberian cooler. But those days are days that most people work. Tagged fish values still work, though, every single day.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring in a tagged fish, you still receive that amount.
Mm-hmm.
But it's those special categories that don't count Monday through Thursday.
And at the end,
your bonus at the end, those totals get added to the bonus dollar with the Friday through Sunday bonus amounts. So you get that also.
Mm-hmm. And now the key is the more you catch, the more money you can make. So you are rewarded for spending more time on there if you want to do that. And you just heard from the folks I interviewed that can add up to a lot of money. So when folks during the weekdays they got to turn their fish in by 6 o'clock, where do they turn those in again?
At Blue Bay.
At Blue Bay.
That's the only place that fish can be turned in Monday through Thursday. Friday through Sunday, we do fish pickups at Big Arm and in Polson at Salish Point. The state, who sanctioned these events also, they will do fish pickups up at Summers Boat Ramp area there, and also at Wayfarers in Big Fort.
Okay. And again, for those of you listening, I'll have a link. For those that are not familiar with Flathead Lake, I'll have a link to a map of Flathead Lake, and that way you can see where those areas are, so you'll know where to get to that. Now, for folks that don't live in the area and want to camp, I'm going to put a link to Montana State Parks and that for camping, so you can see where some of the areas are to camp. I do recommend that you check those out and make sure those campgrounds are indeed open. Sometimes things change. And also, if there's reservations that you can make, I do recommend you get that done. So go.
Yeah, and the tribes also have the Blue Bay campground open.
Mm-hmm.
Just for Mack Days anglers during the event. There is a charge for that. So they could give me a call and ask me about that if they want to.
Yeah, and that's a good idea too. Julie just said that they really like that Blue Bay area, and a lot of competitors love sitting around the campfire down there. So
Yeah.
that might be a good spot to go. But again, check all that out and make sure you know where you're going and what you're doing. And we'll have Cindy's email down there so you can get a hold of her. Of course, Manny will be giving my email here just shortly. And you're more than welcome to email me, and I'll get messages up to Cindy as well. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure you guys get all the information you need. And, one of the things, Cindy, that everyone I just interviewed brought you up and said what a great job you and your staff do.
Thank you.
Well, you really are the heartbeat of this organization and this tournament. You guys just put on such a great organized deal. So hats off to you. Everybody just had great things to say about you. Anything else that you'd like to let the folks know before we close it out here?
The only thing I'd like to say is, we appreciate each and every angler that comes out and helps with this. I feel like it's very important that we do this effort to try to increase the native fish numbers. If we don't do it now, what's going to happen? Native species are disappearing everywhere, every single day, and we don't want that to happen here. So that's why I feel this is very important for the state, for the tribes, and it's something that we need to do and continue on for years.
Yeah, this is something where, and another very unique thing about this tournament is it's the anglers working with those that help manage our environment, and that all working together to do the right thing for this. So that's another good reason to participate in this. Is you're not only having some fun fishing on one of the most beautiful lakes in the world, but you're also making a difference, and that's important.
Exactly.
Even if you just only can do it for 1 day or 2 days, it's worth it, and you're doing some real good. And the biologists seem to think that this is really starting to have a pretty positive effect, huh?
Yes, that's what they're hoping. They're seeing some signs that they feel, might be positive. So that's what we're hoping for.
Mm-hmm. So again, there's another really important thing to do. As far as areas on the lake, and I'm glad I remembered to ask you about this, they can fish anywhere on the lake, right?
That is correct. Yes, anywhere on Flathead Lake. But you have to follow regulations if you're on the north half versus the south half. They're a little bit different, but you just need to read the regulation books.
Right. And of course, you do have to be properly licensed.
Yes.
And all that's in the regulation books. In the podcast description down there in the links, I will have a link to the Montana fishing regulations. So it'll be real easy. You can click on that, read it. You'll know exactly what to get. I for one, when I fish Flathead Lake, I like buying both the tribal permit and the regular FWP license, because then you can go anywhere.
Yes. Yes, that's true. The tribes have a special license for the south half of the lake, but you can't fish on the north half of the lake with that.
Right.
It's a reduced amount just for the lake. The limits on Flathead Lake are the same for both ends. It's up to 100 fish a day under 30 inches, one over if it's over 36, and the rest can be under 30 inches. The problem is the slot limit, which is 30 to 36 inches. You cannot keep those fish on the north half of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
On the south half you can, but we don't give credit for them. They might have a tagged fish, which we will count for a tag in them, but we don't give credit because we want this to be even for anglers from both ends of the lake.
Right. So again, when you look at those regulations, and even if you've been fishing for a while, it never hurts to just refamiliarize yourself, just in case there was any changes from the last time you were fishing in Flathead. So I do encourage all anglers just to give those regulations for that area a good once over, just so you know what you're doing there.
And they can see the bull trout and lake trout ID stuff while they're doing that. That's important to know how to correctly identify the fish you're catching.
And I'm going to put a link also into an app you can download for your phone called the Fishes of Montana app. And that is a great app to use to identify fish. It is very helpful, and you can literally look at your fish right there with your app on your phone, and it will help you identify that real quickly. So that's a nice thing to have, and it's kind of interesting because you can learn about all kinds of fish. But that's a kind of a handy thing just to have on your phone. So I'll put that in there too, so people can do that.
Great. Thank you.
You bet, Cindy. Is there anything else you want to say before we jump on out of here and get ready to do some fishing?
I'd just like to thank you and the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. You guys do a great job getting information out to people.
Well,
that's very important.
It's our pleasure. This is a passion for each and every one of us that work on this podcast and also on the radio show, and we can't wait to have some fun up there for Fall Mack Days. So everyone take part. Now, if you want updates, listen to the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. Cindy will be on with us each week and give us updates on fish counts and all kinds of good stuff too. So, all right, Cindy, thanks so much.
Thank you.
There you have it, folks. Oh, man, this is going to be a fun Fall Mack Days this year for sure. We'll have lots more great podcasts coming up. Be safe out there. Take care. Be good to each other. And we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.